I suppose upper 80s and sunny gets a little boring, so this is something different. I feel badly for those who had plans, though. I want to keep it very short. I sort of have this unwritten rule that I don't get any more words than Jesus gets, so this is a very short gospel. We had a family reunion, so I spent last weekend at the lake. It was an absolute blast being with my extended family for a couple of days, because when we were young, my many cousins and I used to spend time together every summer at our grandparents' cottage. And although we live all across the country now, I'm amazed at how quickly we fall back into that comfortable place when we're all together. It's like we're all 9 again. For our family, the lake is one of those special, sacred places. We all have busy, complicated lives, but on the rare occasions when we gather at the lake, all of that just fades away. It's a simple place where we can just be together, laugh, tell stories about our kids, and even cry together about some of the difficult times that we've gone through. The chaos of life can be very suffocating, but at the lake, we push back and create this space for us to be alone together. And in this space, we're able to be more present to one another. We have this freedom to remind ourselves what life is really all about, and probably most importantly, how much we love one another despite all of our flaws. We get to rediscover that 9-year-old that still lives inside of us. Today's gospel is also a story about going to the lake to find solitude. Although we call it the Sea of Galilee now, the place in today's gospel was known at the time as Lake Gennesaret. It was named for the town at the extreme northwest tip of this lake, and this is where Jesus and his apostles had set up shop. The apostles have been out preaching on their own for some time. We heard that in last week's gospel, where Jesus sent them out. He said, "Get out of here. Go and try this on your own." But this week, Jesus calls them back. But why? That's the million-dollar question for us. Well, 2 things seem to be happening. First, the apostles are simply reporting in, sharing their successes, their difficulties. But I believe the real story is the second part. We're told about great numbers of people, so many that the apostles can't even eat without being disturbed. They're overwhelmed, and things are starting to close in on them. They need some solitude. They need some space to get their heads on straight. So Jesus takes them off to a place where he can be alone with them. He takes them to the lake. What's interesting is that while they're hustling off to this quiet spot, this chaos follows them. The crowds grow even bigger, and they're standing there waiting for Jesus as he gets off the boat. And it's only then that Jesus recognizes the scale of this problem. He recognizes how lost these people really are. Sheep without a shepherd, so desperate for some help that they literally follow him across a lake. What Jesus thought was going to be a rescue operation for a few turns into a field hospital for many. There's definitely a noisiness and a busyness in this gospel passage. It's about chaos of the world and the frantic search to find meaning and truth. And in the middle of this is the calm presence of Jesus, the one who is able to create a place of encounter for his apostles and the thousands gathered there with them. Thomas Merton, a man I'm fond of reading, once said that we need enough silence and solitude in our lives to enable the deeper voice of our own self to be heard, at least occasionally. For my family, that place of silence is the lake. And it's a noble place, but it only offers a temporary respite. By Sunday afternoon, everyone is already heading off in different directions, back into the chaos. But Jesus in this gospel is offering us an alternative. He gives us an opportunity to finally find a place of real solitude and rest. But we need to stop running around. I think Merton's words sound even better when we read it as, we need enough silence and solitude in our lives for the voice of God to be heard, at least occasionally. Perhaps it was easier when Jesus was physically here with us. He was able to do the work of creating these places of encounter, like the one we heard about today. Unfortunately, that is left to us now. We need to be willing to push back the chaos to create places of tranquility so that we are able to encounter him. He's there waiting to teach us too, just like he taught thousands on the banks of the Lake Gennesaret many years ago. So I suppose today's gospel leaves us with a very simple challenge. And this is the thought I will leave you to think about this week. What are we doing to ensure that we have places of silence, places of tranquility in our lives where we can encounter God? Where is our lake? Not just a place to meet family, but to meet the one who loves us more than any of us can imagine. He's waiting there now, but are we willing to create the silence to hear his voice?